Welcome to the supermoon party. Shine on. Yeah. Anyway, tonight, well, technically not tonight. It's a weird thing. We'll talk about that. But we are on our third supermoon in a row of 4. There will be 4 total. Tonight's, however,
Where'd Dave
is going to
go?
be the big.
There he is.
Where'd I go? I'm right here. I didn't go anywhere. I'm right here, right up on the moon. As you can clearly see behind me, I'm on the moon. So tonight we're talking about tonight's supermoon, which technically will be full at 4:26 a.m. Pacific time. That would be 6:26 a.m. Central time. Or a quick bit of math there. Let's see if I can do this quick bit of math. I believe that's going to be, what time is that, Debbie? Do you know? Do you remember?
Well, 6. Okay, so calendars will probably say that October 17th is the full moon. But
Correct.
In fact, for the Americas, the full moon falls tonight because for us, I'm in the central time zone, it's going to be 6:26. When the fullest moon happens, that's 2 hours before moonset. So the moon is still going to be up for us in North America, central time zone. Yeah. So it's a time zone issue, whether it's tonight or tomorrow. But there's one thing that is happening tonight for all of us in the Americas, at least, and that is the moon will be closest.
Maybe I've just lost. Oh, excuse me.
Closest to Earth for 2024. Closest full moon to Earth for 2024. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the sun news.
Oh, we've got some news. That's right. Let's hear what you've got.
That's right. Natalia, next slide, please. Woohoo! Officially solar maximum. NASA and NOAA had a press conference yesterday, and they said that the sun is now officially at its maximum for this 11-year cycle. So we've been saying all year that the sun is at or near maximum because it's been incredibly active, but now it's officially at maximum.
So what does that mean? What is maximum what? Maximum coolness, maximum heat?
Yeah, so what happens is that about every 11 years, the sun's magnetic poles flip. So you might have heard people talking about Earth's magnetic poles flipping, but the sun does it every 11 years. And so when it's going through that transition, it's particularly stormy on the sun. So by stormy, I mean lots of sunspots, lots of flares, lots of prominences and filaments, lots of stuff going on the sun. So that's
coronal mass ejections, loading sun stuff, as we like to say here at EarthSky, which is, it's a complicated thing. We dumb it down a little. Well, don't dumb it down. We make it simple, make it understandable. I don't want to say dumb it down because that's not what we're doing. But sun stuff,
no,
is complicated.
Hey, I think sun stuff is so much better than coronal mass ejection, but
it is
for us ordinary folks. But yes, that's what's going on. So the sun has been at its peak. It's been at a peak, and we have a daily sun post at earthsky.org. And our 2 sun post authors, which is Dr. C. Alex Young and Raul Cortez, are constantly saying, what was the sunspot number for July? What was the sunspot number for August? What was the sunspot number for September? Because they're trying to find that maximum. And Alex told me this morning that he's been on duty. I mean, he is with Goddard Space Flight Center, NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, and NASA is one of the people who just announced the solar maximum. So Alex said that he's been talking to the public information office there at NASA for the past 2 weeks, and they're trying to pin down exactly when that maximum is. So Alex is going to be with us.
We don't want any false alerts.
That's right. So Alex is going to be with us on Friday for the regular Friday Sun News at 12:15 p.m. Central or 17:15 UTC. And we hope you'll join us in. Talk more about this.
Do we have any other exciting news to talk about? Or
That
Are we
there
ready?
is exciting stuff going on.
There
In
is.
fact, I just read this morning that, and I don't have a slide for this, but I just read that they've just figured out that some huge percentage, I want to say like 78% or some number like that, 80% of all meteorites come from just 3 asteroid families, which is a pretty cool thing. So,
That is pretty cool.
yeah, so I'm sure we'll do something on that later. I just read that in the last 15 minutes before we
Just
came
got
on.
that one.
So, yeah, we're
This
not
is
ready to
breaking
talk about
stuff.
that.
You heard it here first, people. Breaking news right here on earthsky.org's live stream. So that's why you should like, subscribe, and you know what? Do us a favor, please. You know, we kind of count on you guys. Share stuff around for us. Give it to your friends. Let them know we're here. We're a community. We want you guys involved with us. We love it that you're here sharing this stuff with us. So please share it around. Enjoy it. What do we got next, Debbie?
Next slide, please, Natalia. The
Oh,
super hunter's moon. So Marcy Curran is going to be with us after I take off in a few minutes, and she's
okay.
going to tell us what a hunter's moon is, but I'm going to tell us why it's super.
Please, why is this not an ordinary full moon?
Okay, so let's actually go to the next slide because it's a very interesting slide. Okay, so
Oh,
you may see these illustrations of the orbit of the moon, Dave, that are
yeah.
oval shaped. Show the moon's orbit as like an oval. So many people know nowadays that the moon's orbit around Earth is not a perfect circle.
Yeah.
So the moon has times when it's more distant from Earth, and it has times when it's closer to Earth. And that's what's happening tonight at around 8 p.m. tonight. The moon will be closest. It's not closest to Earth for the entire year because there was a new moon back in the early months of the year where there was a moon that was closer. So it's not the closest moon of the year, but it's the closest full moon of the year, which means it's going to be the brightest moon of the year. But I wanted to mention this slide because it shows that the moon's orbit around Earth, even though it's not a circle, it's nearly a circle. So all those illustrations you see of the moon's orbit as an oval, like an elongated oval, and I think we're showing one later in this live stream, those are not quite the right shape of the moon's orbit.
Not
This
to scale.
illustration, right, this illustration is from Dr. Brian Koberlein, and he figured out the eccentricity of the moon's orbit and made this illustration to show that the difference between perigee and apogee, the moon's closest point and farthest point, is not a huge difference, but it's
No, it isn't.
enough of a difference that we tonight will see the moon some 30% brighter than a regular full moon. So it's going to be a really bright moon, especially tonight if you're in the Americas. If you're
Already,
in
if
some
you
other
are
part of the world, if you're on the other side of the world, your moon, well, I guess if you're on the other side of the world, it's already tomorrow for you. So, yeah, the moon, some hours from
it's
now, what
already
is it?
tomorrow. It is, isn't it? Other side of the
It's
international date
about
line.
8 hours from now, the moon is going to be closest for all of
Right.
us on Earth. So if your moon is
Point.
above the horizon at that point, you will be looking at the closest full moon of 2024.
There you go. I think we are 0.8 days. You guys can do the math on that for hours away from 100% illumination, but we're already at 99%. If you can tell the
Not
difference between
0.8 days,
99%,
0.8 hours.
oh, I think
0.8 hours away from 100% illumination.
Hours showing next full moon at 0.8 days.
Oh, 0.8 days. You're right.
4:26 a.m.
Yes, you're right.
Anyway,
I'm wrong.
that's neither here
Sorry.
nor there because the moon is out there. The point is, if it's nighttime where you are right now, go outside and look at the moon. That's it. It's the supermoon. You can see it right this very second, depending on where you are on this thing over here, not on my head. No, on the Earth. Okay. Anyway,
But it has to be nighttime to see the moon. So if it's not nighttime where you are, wait till nighttime and then see the moon. The full moon, the moon is up at all sorts of hours of the day, but the full moon is only up when the sun goes down because it's opposite the sun. So the sun goes down, moon comes up. That's what makes a full
There
moon.
you go. There we go. You're starting to sound like an old Southern song. Um,
That's all I
so
got, Dave.
that's all you got? Well, then, you know what? Thank you, Debbie. Why don't you head backstage and we'll get Marcy out here? Come
Bye,
on out,
guys.
Marcy. Where are you? Marcy, Marcy, where are you? I'll find her. I'll find her yet. There she is. Hi, Marcy. How you doing?
Hi, Dave. I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. Not much change from one day. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well is how I'm doing. I'm having a good time. I'm having fun, and I hope it shows because this is fun stuff. This is great stuff for us lunatics like you and me. We're lunatics. Anyway, what have you got to share with us today, Mars?
Well, the first thing I wanted to go over was why the Hunter's Moon is special.
Okay.
The Hunter's Moon is definitely tied to the Harvest Moon in a couple of ways. The Harvest Moon was last month, and the Harvest Moon is the full moon closest to the autumnal equinox in the Northern Hemisphere,
Right.
in the September equinox. And
The
then, of course,
September equinox.
the next full moon would be the Hunter's Moon. And the reason they're both so kind of well known and special is because of the angle of the moon's orbit around the autumnal equinox. The moon
Okay.
averages 50 minutes later each day when it rises,
Mhm.
but around the autumnal equinox, it rises roughly around 30 minutes later each day. So if we could have the next slide, you'll actually see a full bright moon a couple nights in a row. So we'll see it tonight, tomorrow night, and the next night. And
Mhm.
since they rise earlier each night, like Debbie already mentioned, is basically when the sun's setting, the moon's rising. So this was adding a lot of extra light at night, which the reason for both the harvest and the hunter's moon is it allowed farmers, of course, to harvest their crops later into the night. And of course,
Mhm.
then during the hunter's moon is it kind of signifies the end of the harvest season, but then the hunters could get out and gather game and protein before the long winter sets in. So that's why
Now the
they're both
fields are
kind
clear.
of popular and well known, and you get a lot of bright light then at night just because they rise earlier each day.
Right. And this time, if you're a hunter, you're going to get extra light. So the fields have been cleared during the harvest moon. Everything's down to the stubble. The trees are bare. The leaves have fallen. It's time to go hunting, and this is the night for it. If you're one of those people who enjoys that kind of a thing. So, what else do you have to share with us today, Mars?
Well, I also wanted to go into the moon illusion, which a lot of people do
Oh,
notice that when the moon is on the distant horizon, it looks way bigger than it looks high overhead in the sky.
mhm.
And of course, there is really no exact reasoning why that happens. They speculate primarily it's because, yeah, it's an illusion, right? Your
Mhm.
brain, you know what the trees in the distance look like. You know what
Exactly.
a steeple looks like in the distance, or a house, or a building, or like a cell tower. And the moon, of course, is the most distant object. So your brain just kind of projects in your mind that that object is really a lot larger than it is. So could we pull up the next slide? This is a prime example of that. We all know those trees are not as gigantic as it makes it appear with that really large moon. So, again, it is an
Mine are no
illusion.
detail. Oh,
And the
there.
way you see gorgeous pictures like this is basically people use telephoto lenses, or they
Mhm.
crop their photo. So it just makes it look like that moon is super, super large. And you can prove this to yourself a couple of ways. Recently, on one of our other live streams, John, who will be talking later, suggested that you use like just a regular table saw and look up at the moon on the horizon and then high overhead, and you'll see that basically they look the same size. Those of you that are maybe younger people and have good balance, I've actually done this. Bend over and look through your legs at the moon on the horizon, and it'll just totally lose the illusion that it's big. It truly does work. And if you want to
I suppose you
prove
could
it,
just lie on your back.
now I'd probably fall over, but I did try that when I first heard it, and it works like a charm. But the certain way to
Well,
prove it
I have to see this.
The certain way to prove it is actually take a picture of the moon on the horizon and the moon when it's over your head, and you will see side by side that they're exactly the same size. But of course, when you're looking up in the sky, there's nothing else kind of relative to it to give you a perception of how large it is. It seems really tiny when it's overhead in the sky.
Yeah, everything is relative, isn't it?
Right.
Everything depends on context. Context is ever so important.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that straw, John's straw trick, and John will be with us in a few minutes, is a great way to discover that. You just look through that straw, and you will see that it is definitely the same size
Right.
going up and coming down.
And everybody loves to see this super bright moon, and pictures like this are just fantastic. You just can't beat them. It's a very memorable sight. So hopefully everybody does get out and see this brightest moon of the year, super moon of the year tonight.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope so too. All right, Marcy, thank you ever so much.
You
Appreciate
bet.
it.
There was one more thing I did
Oh,
want.
you got one more thing. She is the voice of
Yeah,
the night sky, so we're gonna hush up and listen.
no, just one more thing. Next
Okay, what do you
slide,
got?
please. This is the third of 4 supermoons in a row. And as you can see, and Debbie had already mentioned, this is the closest of 4. But just kind of a recap, in
Right.
August, we had not only a supermoon, but it was a blue moon. It was a seasonal blue moon, which is, of course, the third. If you have 4 full moons in one season, the third full moon is a seasonal blue moon. September, of course, was the harvest moon. Tonight, tomorrow is the hunter's moon, and then we'll follow up with one more supermoon in November, and that's going to be the beaver supermoon.
Okay. All
All
right.
right.
Sounds great. Thank you, Marcy. I really appreciate your time. Remember, Marcy does our night sky guide, and you can catch a new chart, new descriptions, new things to look out for every night of the week. Find those on earthsky.org.
Great.
So, thanks,
All right.
Marcy.
Thanks, Dave.
Appreciate it. Okay, I think we are not being cooperative. It's decided to be a little bit. All right, Marcy. Marcy is gone, and and there's John. How you doing, John?
I'm doing fine, thank you, Dave.
All right. So, do you have slides, or should we lose this?
I'd like to say a few words first before we go
Please.
to
Okay, can you get the slides
before we change the
down then for a
slide.
sec? Now,
Yeah,
Talia, sorry.
here at EarthSky, you listen to these broadcasts and you notice that these presenters, they have a lot of fun doing it. And I won't say we joke around, but we smile and laugh a lot. But I'd like to talk about a subject which is pretty darn serious, and it'll be obvious. Yeah, I'd like to talk about Hurricane Milton and how the supermoon, or how the moon played a role in its destruction, or rather that things could have been a lot worse if the moon was situated differently in its orbit when Hurricane Milton came ashore. Now, I know a lot of you know about so-called storm surge. That is a wall of water that kind of just pushes its way into low-lying land during a hurricane. And storm surge is caused by a number of things, from the low pressure, from high winds, from high rainfall coming into rivers and flowing out through estuaries of the ocean, through the terrain under the ocean surface, a lot of things. But one thing that it also affects is the moon's gravity. So let's go to the first slide. I'd like to explain a little bit of this stuff here. So first slide, please, Dave.
Okay.
Don't worry, I don't have a whole bunch of slides. So. Yes. Thank you, Dave. We have, I'd like to talk about what causes tides. If Hurricane Milton came ashore at a super high tide, there would have been a lot more destruction, because you would have had a super storm surge coming in, but it didn't. And that's for a couple of reasons. First of all, it wasn't high tide when it came ashore. It was kind of halfway between high tide and low tide. So that was a little bit on the plus side for people there. But the other reason is this. You have the moon orbiting the Earth. And as you can suspect, the moon is always pulling on you, has a small gravitational tug on you, on Earth. And you can see on our rough little diagram here, we have a person standing at point A on the planet. It's closest to the moon. You can imagine a little bit closer to the moon, that person's going to have a little bit more of a gravitational pull than a person standing on the other side of the Earth at point B.
So person A weighs less than person B.
In a sense. But the ocean at point A gets pulled a little bit more towards the moon than at point B. And I'll explain the bulge on the other side in just a second.
Okay.
So if Hurricane Milton came ashore at the time when the person at Hurricane A at point A was facing the moon, it would have been a lot of water coming on shore. Now let's go over to the person at B. The Earth and the moon also doing all this stuff. They orbit around a common center of gravity, and that's where the plus sign is. That's the center of the Earth-Moon system.
For that.
And you can imagine with centripetal force, if you're close to that center of gravity, like the A person is, they'll experience some force of being thrown away from that plus point. Person on the other side of the Earth is farther away. So they will be thrown away from that plus point even more than the person of A. So this means that the ocean water piles up on the far side of the Earth, as well as it piling up even more on the near side of the Earth towards the moon. So that didn't, when the hurricane came ashore, this was not the scenario. The high tide was not as high as it could have been. It was kind of halfway between high and low tides. So they kind of escaped. I won't say they escaped the bullet, but it was a lot less severe than it could have been.
Thank goodness for small favors.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit. But storm surges are nothing to joke around. A very minor storm surge would be 3 feet or so, which is, okay, it's not that big of a deal. But a major one is, I think I have 25 feet, and that happens. And I think this one was somewhere around 20. Yeah, so good. It didn't happen during high tide. Let's go to the next slide. So how does the supermoon fit in with all this stuff? Well, a very rough diagram. Yes, I'm the guy who has the oblong orbital Earth there, orbital moon orbital path. I'm the really oblong, but this is done for clarity.
For demonstration purposes.
Only.
Don't try and reach the moon using this diagram.
Exactly. You'd be in big trouble. Okay, so you got the moon orbiting the Earth. Now, you can see where on the upper left-hand side, I have a wide gray path going across. That's the general area which we would call a supermoon. If the full moon would be in that general area, we'd say supermoon tonight or tomorrow morning. Okay, that's where it'll be. So it's pretty close. But when Milton came ashore, it was the moon was more near first quarter, quite a bit further away. So it wasn't as close as it will be tonight. So the tides weren't as strong as they could have been. If this hurricane would have happened tonight, all that could have been even a lot worse. The tides are even higher. You may have heard the expression, we have spring tides and neap tides. Well, spring tides has nothing to do with the seasons. No. It has to do with the tides jump up a little bit higher, and that is when the Earth, moon, and sun are all in a line like this. So tonight is a spring tide, but because it's a supermoon, things are extra close. Sometimes the term, a very inaccurate term, is used king tides, like a super tide, but the king tide. Well, that will happen tonight. In fact, people who
that was the question I was going to ask next is, so the tides around the world will be larger tonight than normal, correct?
That's right. So if you along the coast, you might notice that the high tides is going to be a little bit further into the beach than normally occurs.
All right, mariners, take notice.
Yeah.
Tides this evening.
So it's kind of a big deal, and that's the tides. The moon really does affect us. We like discounting certain superstitions or stories about how the moon affects us personally and all this. Well, actually, it does affect the oceans through our tides, every day, all the time. The moon is always pulling on us. The Earth is always spinning around this center of gravity. So we're getting thrown out through centripetal force at different amounts, depending on where we are in this rotational bit with the Earth and the moon.
Momentum changes depending on our position relative to the center of the moon's mass and the barycenter, or the center of the shared Earth-Moon system.
Correct. And of course, we do have the fact that you are closer to the moon when you're on the near side of the Earth than when you're on the very far side. So there is a little bit more gravitational pull for you towards the moon when you're at that so-called point A on that slide beforehand.
Yeah.
So that's kind of something for you to keep in mind.
They add up. Yeah. And tonight they are all adding up. And so
Correct.
Go forth with caution, guys.
Well, we issue all these warnings here, but remember, this stuff happens all the time. Supermoons don't happen every month, but the full moon happens every month.
Yeah.
Supermoons happen a few times a year, so I wouldn't get too alarmed about any of this stuff. But it's something to take note.
No. It's it's another interesting thing to know about the natural world around us and the way that it functions and how we're integrated right into it, and affects our lives every single day.
Exactly. Our world does not end.
John.
Our world does not end a few miles above us. We got something that's 221,000 miles today from us. Oh, that's affecting us as well. So.
Okay. John, do you have one more slide for us, maybe? I hope. Do you have another slide for us?
Hey, I'm not the producer of this, so if you want to have one more slide, I got one more slide.
Let's see that next slide. I want to see it.
Well, that's not mine.
It
that's not mine. I'm at the very end. It's at the very end.
Oh, at the very
that
end,
baby.
very end.
Oh,
there it is. Okay.
Hey.
All right.
You want controversy?
Inquiring minds want to know.
Inquiring minds. I'm sorry. So what does it say? Why has it been said that the moon is made of green cheese? Who knows? I mean, obviously, it's not made of green cheese. Where did this come from? And the small amount of research I've done into this has said that the real answer is nobody really knows, but there is a very plausible explanation of this.
Okay.
Any thoughts? Any thoughts out there?
I'm baffled.
Then I'll jump right into it. The key to this whole thing is the word green.
Okay.
Green does not mean color.
What does it mean?
If you look at the reason why I chose this picture, you look at the reflection. This is not a real picture. I made it just get the point across. So I don't want you thinking, hey, we're spreading false news here. But if you look at the reflection in the moon and water, you can see it's kind of wavering. And I think a lot of people have thought, what that looks like? That looks like a wheel of curing cheese.
Fresh cheese.
Green cheese.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Like the green wine.
Yeah.
I understand now.
And this expression has gone back a few hundred years. So
I would think.
People didn't have really sophisticated explanations of this, but this kind of fits right in with what the average person would see in an agricultural area. This is what they'd see, and it sounds plausible to me. So green is not the color; it's the curing or the uncured state of something. In this case, cheese.
Curing of the cheese. And of course, the craters look like the holes in Swiss cheese to me. All right, John. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it once again.
Thank you, Dave.
Always a pleasure, John. Always.
It was fun. See, we do get serious sometimes, but we also try to have a little bit of fun here.
Yeah. Well, everything in balance, all things in good measure. Ooh, why don't we talk about the comet, John? Thanks. We're gonna go ahead and see if we can't slide you out and bring on Kelly. And there goes John, and here comes Kelly. Hi, Kelly. How are you doing?
Hi, Dave. How are you?
I am doing well. We're reversing quickly on the slides. There we go. Wow, that's gorgeous. What am I looking at? Tell me all about this.
So even though this is technically, we're supposed to be talking about the supermoon. So tonight, when the supermoon rises, that's when most people look at it because they see it, coming above the horizon. It catches their attention. It looks so big. So take your time and look at that supermoon as it rises, but then turn your back on it and look toward the sunset. So the moon will be up in the east and the sun is just set in the west. And after the sunset, so you can see from this photo, there is a comet out in the sky. This comet, I'm going to try to pronounce it as best I can. Chu-Chin-Chan Atlas, or just say A3. That's totally fine. That's Comet A3 right there in the sky. Yeah, so this comet, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to know who took it. Who took this wonderful picture? And how did you end up
another name
getting
I
it in
can't
your
pronounce.
hands?
Fotis Mavrodakis from Greece. So this is a picture from Greece.
Mavrodakis, I believe.
There you go.
Okay,
Yes.
and how did you end up with it in your hot little hands?
Right. So we have this amazing global community of people that come to us at EarthSky and share their photos on our community photos page. And this is one of those photos. So here's what you're going to do. I'm hoping that everyone goes out to try to see the comet tonight. Of course, first you need to not have clouds on your western horizon. That's going to be very vital. You need to wait until the sky gets a little darker. So, but the problem with that is that there's a window because that comet is setting. So you can't wait too long for really dark skies because then it will have set. It's following the sundown. It's getting farther away from the sun, but at this point, it's still pretty close to the sun. So the sun will go down, and then a little bit later, the comet will go down also. So some tips.
So you're racing against time.
Yeah, there's a window in which you can see this. So some tips for how to see the comet. If you look west after sunset, you're going to see a really bright point of light out there, real low, and that's Venus. So you're going to try to look to the upper right, and that's where you're going to find the comet. And in fact, I do want to point out that comets are lots of times portrayed as speeding across the sky. So last night I told my sister like where to go to find it, and she said, "I think I see it, but it's not moving." I'm like, "No, that's right. You do see it. It's not like the cartoon comet. It's moving quickly, but not in our sky that quickly." And yes, it is on its way out of our solar system right now.
Okay.
Now, if you look closely at this photo, you can see perhaps you think you see a little white line extending toward the horizon. So if we go to the next slide, we'll have a better view of that. There you can see it looks like a little white.
This is the one that's our thumbnail for the video because this one was so good. I had to use it.
It's gorgeous. It looks like it's coming out of the bottom. And this isn't just something that we can see only a couple of days. And by tonight, you probably won't be able to see it anymore. So what happened was, as this comet is coming across, it's coming around the sun, and we are looking at where it has been. That's the main part of the comet is the part that goes up to the left, but that little bit is lit by the sun, and it's the debris trail basically of what the comet has left behind. And for just this moment, these few days as we're passing the plane of the comet, the sun is lighting that so that we get to see just that little trail of where the comet has been.
So this is
and then as a bonus at the top is this just amazing globular cluster in this image.
I was going to ask about that. What's that thing?
This is from today, this photo, but it was taken over in Tunisia. So this is Makram Larnaout took this photo, and it's amazing because you can see what we call the anti-tail. That's the part that's going down. And then we can see the actual dust tail, and you can see kind of like texture and lanes in there. And then at the top, you can see a globular cluster, which is just a huge ball of stars that are bound together, and they circle our Milky Way galaxy. And it just happened that the comet is passing near this, it's called M5, this globular cluster when he took the photo.
Right. That is so cool. That was so good. We're going to be talking live tomorrow, same time as today, about A3. And so we'll all be here. And this was such a stunning picture. I had to thieve it from you and turn it into the thumbnail for tomorrow. So anyway, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about it. We hope you guys will join us. Remember, like the stream, share the stream, and subscribe so you don't miss any of this fun stuff we're doing. What else do you have for us today, Kelly?
I think that we have a star chart just to give you little more help
Okay.
to see this comet. And if it is cloudy tonight, you can look the next night, and you can try
Next
the
slide,
next
Nat.
night. So the comet will be here for a couple of nights yet. Don't know how long you'll be able to see it. Maybe a week, maybe more.
Catch it while
It's
it
just
lasts.
it's hard to say because it is, on the good side, it's moving away from the sun, so it's going to be in darker skies. The bad side, it's moving away from the sun, so it's going to get dimmer. So it's kind of that fine balance. But if you have a chance to see this is something that you can maybe even see with your eyes alone. I saw it with my eyes alone. What you first want to do is take a photo, because your
Okay.
phone will pick that up better than your eyes, and then you know where to look. Once you get it, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's above the chimney of the neighbor's house. Then you know with your eyes where to look. And it even helps if you look a little to the side using averted vision, because that will make it
Mhm.
pop more. So yeah, definitely, if you have a chance to see this comet, this is a great comet. I haven't seen
It
a
is.
comet this good since Hale-Bopp in like the 90s. So this is really
97.
exciting. This is the one we're always waiting. Like, we get excited about. This is the one we've been waiting for.
We've been
So
waiting
really, if
and
you can see
waiting.
Comet A3, you got to go out and get a look.
Okay. Oh, we're jumping around here on the slides. What's going on? Okay. Well, it's funny that you had mentioned spotting it above the neighbor's chimney, because that is exactly how I found it the other day. I was looking and I had to get the binoculars out. So that's another thing you can do, is sweep around with your binoculars. When you move your binoculars, anything that's a different contrast in the background sky will pop out just a little bit more. So that's another useful way to find it. But once I knew where it was, straight over that chimney, no problem seeing it with an unaided eye. All
And
right.
if you have binoculars, you shouldn't need them. You can just use your phone, and then hopefully your eyes if you're in a dark sky site. And if you have a low western horizon, that you don't want buildings or trees in the way. But binoculars, man, I used those last night, and you could see the head of that comet so bright and clear inside the rest of the fuzz. It was
Oh,
awesome.
man. It is. It's a really, really awesome comet. It's putting on the full commentary show for us. Okay. Anything else to share with us today, Kelly?
Just come back tomorrow and we'll talk more about the comet.
Yeah,
We've
come
all
back
here have
tomorrow.
seen it and have really great stories to tell.
We all have our comet stories from this one and from the past comets, because we've seen quite a few in our day, haven't we?
That is true.
Okay. So can we get Debbie back in now? I think we're ready for Debbie. Where are you, Debbie? There's
Hey,
Debbie.
guys.
Hi,
I
Debbie.
didn't know I was coming back. I was just sitting here spacing out.
Oh, well, I just thought we'd wrap it up by saying hi to Debbie. Surprise. Anyway, folks,
I'm glad it
Debbie
wasn't
and
just an
Kelly
empty
and I, and
chair.
hopefully, no, oh, thank God, huh? And I believe John and Marcy too. We'll all be back here tomorrow for a group chat. The whole team will be here. We'll have our roving reporter at home sitting down in a chair, and Marcy will be ready to tell you what to look at and where. And Debbie will be providing our scion. Debbie is our scion. She provides the wisdom and the way. So we will see all of you folks here tomorrow at 12:15 Central Time. That is going to be 17:50 Universal Time. We want all of you here, all of you right here. One EarthSky. We're going to see all you guys tomorrow, I hope. Bye.
Did you
Oh my
catch me
God.
spitting out my gum, you guys? Why'd you
Sorry
bring me
about that,
back?
Debbie. I thought you were coming back. I'm sorry. I need an
was like-
agenda right in my
I
face.
took this gum out of my mouth real quick. It was like,
Oh, that went well, I think. It was fun anyway. We had
thank you,
My-
Natalia.
my internet is spotty and you guys kept freezing. And so I'm sitting here going, I sure hope they're still talking, because I have no idea. Oh, okay. I'm going to go on and pretend it was interesting. Yeah, that was very interesting. Was that? Oh, I hope it was. She's smiling. Good. It was funny. That's funny. Oh, God. A new one is a new thing every single time we go live, and that was it. I've never had. I've got. What is it? Not Verizon. You know, the good one, the cable company one. Brr. Talk about nerve wracking.
We didn't have a very big audience, you guys. I think the moon is getting like no love. I noticed we had no moon pictures in our community photo page because everybody's looking at the comet like nobody's turning around to